What's up, guys and girls? Welcome back. A lot of people have been asking the question of whether or not to invest into ETBs or booster boxes. And honestly, it's not a simple answer. There's plenty of reasons to go with either or. One gives you promos, dices, random cards, there's things in it. The other one is just set packs. There's, a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit more, collectability for some people, although ETBs do have collectability. But I'm just going to deep dive into each one, the pros and cons, then give you my opinion at the end, and just kind of see where we go from there and just explain my thoughts. So if you're ready for that, let's hop right in. But first up, I do need to announce the winner of the giveaway for 100 subs, the winner of this slab and a free pack. Winner is going to be right here up on the screen. Congratulations to them. I hope they, share what they won or whatever in the Discord. But appreciate everyone who entered. There was a couple of y'all that entered, so appreciate it. We'll do another giveaway of some kind at like 1,000 subs or so. So be ready for that. If you could like and subscribe, help me out a ton. Let's dive right into this video though. So first, let's talk about booster boxes. Canonically, these are the premier item for Pokemon and most card games, especially TCGs, but also sports cards in general, is the booster box. This is a box that's just cards. It is just the packs. There's no ancillary packs or accessories or promos, well, until recently, or anything like super unique about it. It is just the packs packaged squarely away into a box form. Pretty simple stuff. These products, the booster boxes, have become the premier way to invest for a lot of investors into Pokemon. The reasons behind that are pretty clear. There's a lot of history of growth in booster boxes. They've seemed to be, the most resilient to changes in the Pokemon market. They can, go through reprints and people will still want it because it's the most amount of packs possible to just purchase. And overall, they're pretty, stable. Obviously, they do take up physical space with any physical product that you invest in, but they are smaller than, say, an ETB or some other products like a Blooming Waters. Heaven forbid, those are, a lot more massive. But, the upside for a booster box is definitely there because people collect booster boxes. Crazy it is to say, the booster box itself is also a collectible, which means it also has demand for people that want to both invest and speculate and buy them for their collections. So what do you think this means for like booster boxes in the future and current booster boxes? Now, right now, booster boxes currently are not at MSRP, much like most things in the Pokemon market, but they have had an added premium on top of their even exorbitant prices added on top because a lot of people are now just straight up investing into booster boxes, which I feel like has led to a lot of oversaturation into that market. When Mega Evolutions are now $300, $350, Destined Rivals is $400, $450 a box. Mind you, these are two of the newest sets with booster boxes, and they're going for that extreme of prices. It really, really hurts the, investment potential to grow because they're already at really high prices. Evolving Skies, I think, took like 3 years to hit $500, and Destined Rivals has basically, it peaked and has gone back down, but did that in like 4 months, which is absolutely insane for any new product. So if Evolving Skies, it took that long, and that is the top tier of the new gen stuff, Gen 8 and Gen 9. Obviously, if you go back Team Tag Team, you got Team Up and all that sort of stuff. But if Evolving Skies took that long, and Destined Rivals was able to do that even quicker, it does lead to some credence that booster boxes are being almost too overvalued, and there isn't as much growth. If you're buying a booster box at $400 currently, a Destined Rivals one, and it needs to be held till it's out of print, and unless you just think everything's going to keep going up and Pokemon's never going to reprint it, which, more power to you if you do feel that. I think eventually it will get some sort of reprint. It has to reach $800 to double in price, right? Like that's pretty extreme, right? 400 to 800. Meanwhile, a Destined Rivals, booster box or ETB is like around 100, which is still pretty expensive, but it's 100 to 200. It's a little bit easier with smaller prices to move up a leg compared to 400 to 800. Now, obviously, booster boxes have that premium, and people invest and collect in them, so they're a little bit easier to go up. But like I said, they're more expensive starting point right now, and it kind of leaves it to be not as valuable for people to start investing into unless they have a lot more money. Now for ETBs. Now, ETBs are almost two separate categories right now. There's the Pokémon Center ETBs, which I'll talk about here in a second, and then we'll start off with the regular ETBs. So just a regular ETB, something you can find in Costco, Target, Sam's, Walmart, Best Buy. These are the regular bread and butter things that end up on store shelves and people can just go and buy whenever they want, or at least they used to be before, stores got bought out because things were worth more and people could retail arbitrage and do all sorts of things like that. But ETB, just a basic one, is honestly a pretty simple product. It comes with just a promo, a couple random things. It comes with like a pack of energies, a couple of packs. I think it's like 9 packs currently. And honestly, they're relatively cheap compared to a booster box. A Twilight Masquerade ETB right now, you can go onto TCG Player, and I know this because I saved one literally today on Friday, October 2nd or 3rd, whatever today's date is. I saved one. You could buy 3 of them for $60. It's $59.99 plus $11 shipping. That's MSRP. That is basically what you'd buy it at GameStop for, and you could just buy that off TCG Player. Now, are you telling me that doesn't have the potential to be higher? Obviously, you look at Prismatic and specialty sets in general, but if you look at those, Prismatic going from $100 to $200, pretty realistic, I feel like. Like, it just makes sense that eventually it'll hit that point. It's already started to go up that price, or that trend back upwards. It's back up into like the 120s, I think, which is, saying a lot, that these ETBs, Pokemon's going to reprint them a lot and try and get as much into the crowd as possible, but, they might not be able to, and if they aren't, then the ETBs are going to go up. But the price point is so much lower. Obviously, there's no booster box for Prismatic, so I'm going to throw that out the window. Let's say Destined Rivals ETB. That's also around $90 to $100. A $90 to $100 Destined Rivals ETB. You get 4 of these ETBs for the price of 1 booster box. Now, the booster box, if it goes to, $800, you've doubled your money. And then if you have 4 of these, you have 4. You need only have $200, and you also double your money. Now, obviously, the biggest difference is literally space. If you're just investing little bits of money, I say go for ETBs every single day because they're cheaper and you can get a lot more of them to really, compound that increase. If an ETB goes on a run and goes to $300 and you bought it at $60, that's a huge increase for you. So, if you have a lot of those, big gains from that. But if an ETB, if you have big rolls and you're a big roller, you're probably wanting to go for booster boxes because it's just a smaller space. You can get cases of them, all sorts of things like that. So that's where I'd be at right now currently, based on bankroll, based on ETBs versus booster boxes. And I mentioned I was going to bring up Pokemon Center ETBs, and this is kind of like a whole own ballpark, is Pokemon Center ETBs versus regular ETBs versus booster boxes. Pokemon Center ETBs have almost established themselves as basically the collector's boxes of Pokemon, basically. They're only released on Pokemon Center. They're in limited drops. They don't really reprint them as of right now, although that could possibly change. Pokemon could want more money out of it, and the best way that they make the most money is just putting stuff up on PokemonCenter.com because they don't have to worry about people buying it out on the Walmart shelves and people being unhappy. They just got to deal with the bots and queues and all sorts of stuff like that. But they get the profit margins are way better because there's no distribution or anything like that. They handle all of that. But Pokemon Center ETBs themselves are a whole different animal. Now, if you have the money, Pokemon Center ETBs seem to be the most premier thing now in all of Pokemon, without a doubt. Even more than booster boxes. A Destined Rivals Pokemon Center ETB is almost as much as a regular booster box, and I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being more expensive than it because it has that limited ability and it doesn't really face the same fears of being reprinted as much as a booster box. Since it's not a specialty set, Prismatic's kind of an example of a difference because if it's specialty set, the highest tier thing that they have in that is just the Pokemon Center ETB, so they reprinted that quite a few times I've seen, or at least restocked it. Destined Rivals, I don't know if it will get a restock, at least on Pokemon Center. It's been months now since they did the drop, and we haven't seen any signs of a new one coming out. Again, could be wrong. Could they drop it tomorrow? Yeah, they could. But it does beg the question of, does the Pokemon Center Team Rocket ETB become more expensive? At what point, the Obsidian Flames ETB is more expensive than the Obsidian Flames booster box? That checks out, right? The Pokemon Center one is more valuable. Obviously, the promo is super hyped in these ETB sets, it has the stamp. Now, obviously, I think it's a little ridiculous. All it is a stamp, personally. You can go buy the regular one for way cheaper. But you can't lie that a lot of people are looking forward to this sort of stamp and wanting it into their collections, whether it PSA 10 or just a normal card. So Pokemon Center ETBs themselves are kind of that next tier up above booster boxes. I'd say based on your spending, if you're a lower tier investor just getting into it, ETBs are 100% the way to go, and I think are undervalued right now. The fact you can go buy Surging Sparks and Twilight Masquerade ETBs after the reprint for basically MSRP is a screaming buy. I don't know why people aren't doing that. I know I've been personally picking up a couple just here or there just because I have a little extra capital right now, but I don't know why people aren't. They have good hits in both of those sets. They're cheaper than Shrouded Fable right now, which is absolutely insane to me. But yeah, ETBs are the lowest. Then booster boxes, if you need a lot of it, you're buying a lot of money, or you have a lot of money, you're spending it. And then I think Pokemon Center ETBs are that next step up of collecting, where people are wanting to get all these ETBs. I know personally I want all the Scarlet Violet ETBs. But yeah, overall, that's kind of where the market is right now. I think obviously if you're able to get your hands onto a booster box for a reasonable price, like MSRP or even like $200 right now, it's kind of a screaming buy. They just are, the premier item of it. I do think at current prices, they are way overvalued for what they are. Like, think about it. A booster box, $450, and it's a brand new set. That's extreme. And I don't think should be happening. I think Pokemon's going to eventually fix that. But the ETBs currently are already at MSRP. Like, Twilight's already at MSRP. Why not pick that up? That's undervalued for what it is. The booster box itself is $300+. Why would the ETB not be higher? It was already at $100 plus, or at least about $100 before the reprint. So it's already shown that it could hit $100, and that's a recently new set too. And that's going to be rotated out sooner rather than Destined Rivals will be. That'll be rotated out in, I think, 2027 beginning. Meanwhile, Destined Rivals will be like 2028 and beyond. So ETBs, regular ETBs, I think are undervalued, especially some of them. And then I think newer booster boxes are definitely overrated. Now, if you're talking older stuff, Sword and Shield, I think those are undervalued compared to where, where we currently are. I mean, Battle Styles being like $280 and, Mega being $350, Destined Rivals being $450. Look, that's crazy. I have a Destined Rivals booster box. I might even look into trading that into a Battle Styles ETB and take some cash on top. Who knows? Might see what we can do there. But it is a screaming buy for like ETBs in that sense. Pokemon Center ETBs, if you can get one on Pokemon Center when they drop it, or you're wanting to use them as trade bait, highly encourage that. They're great for right now. They're pretty expensive. People want them. I would definitely try and get your hands on them, especially when they're being released. That's my opinions on those. So yeah, that about wraps it up today. Just gave you my thoughts on ETBs, Pokemon Center and regular and booster boxes, where I feel like the market currently is. Now, let me know in the comments what you think. Obviously, I'm probably wrong. You're going to say booster boxes hold the premium and ETBs are worthless. No, you're probably right. Pokemon Twilight Masquerade ETB is definitely going to be worth less than the booster box. Not arguing that. But I do think there's some value in the ETB right now that is being overlooked by a lot of people. So just let me know what you guys think. Also, if you could like and subscribe, helps me out a ton so we can do more giveaways in the future. Also, so we can hit, the next goal of like 200 subscribers. We're already like at 135 subscribers, which is crazy because just a week or two ago, I was like less than 100. But I appreciate all of y'all. Check out the Discord, links in the description. Love talking to all y'all. That's going to be it. Take care.